Like, I'm Leilani Valencia, and I'm 22 years old, and I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
So how many years have you been here?
19.
Describe your relationship with your mom.
I guess our relationship's pretty chill. She's kind of just the person you talk to when you're like, I don't know if I should do this or not. And she's like, yeah, I mean, consequences are bad, but if you want to do it, go for it. I don't think we're like best friends, but I would prefer to talk to her over my other friends. Yeah, I think she calls it like an open lines of communication relationship.
Gotcha.
Like me and my brother and my mom have no secrets from each other whatsoever.
What's your relationship like with your brother?
I'm pretty sure we're like best friends, but I'm not 100% sure because he's my family, and then he'll be like, I'm not your friend, I'm your brother. But then I'm like, you said you were my friend, and he's like, well, we are friends, but I'm also your brother. So I don't know.
So it's like the ultimate friend.
Yeah, like he cooks dinner for me almost every night. He stays next to my apartment. Anytime I move, he's there.
Okay, so you guys stay in the same like complex, but just next door.
Well, kind of. He lives in his truck with his dog,
Okay.
and so he hangs out with me a lot. He has a dream of like taking his dog to explore the world and taking pictures of his dog in like every state at like monuments and shit.
It's like the van life.
Yeah, he's looking for like a camper right now, but he has like a beat up truck. Like it hasn't moved and we had to get it towed.
Got you. And what about your other siblings? You said it's about 20 of you guys?
Yeah, I don't talk to very many of them. I mainly just talk to the females, and that's like 5 or 6 of them. And then, I usually hit the dudes up when I'm like, hey, can I borrow like $5 for some McDonald's?
Got you. Were any of you guys like raised together?
I think 6 of them are raised together. I know 6 of them have the exact same mom, but I don't know about anybody else.
What was life like for you growing up?
Life for me growing up was, I guess, pretty difficult. I thought it was like the best life ever, but I guess I just was too young to realize all the bad things that were happening at the time. Yeah, so.
What do you mean?
So, like, when your mom hands you, like, a cup of soda, you're gonna drink it, right? But, like, I ended up in foster care at a young age, so I had to live with my grandparents. And I lived at my grandpa's house. And there I got molested and raped by my cousin. And then my other cousins were there too. And so when I ended up snitching on him, I got drowned in the pool. And then I got moved because my grandpa's wife said she did not want black kids in her house. So me and my brother got moved out of there. We ended up getting put with our grandma. And then when we got put with our grandma, it was all chill, like we went to school, we went out to eat. It was fun for like the first few months, and then I guess it changed when she realized that she was gonna like adopt us. Because like back to the soda, like if my grandma handed me a cup of soda, I would drink it and then I'd wake up the next day. And then she'd be like, time to go to school. And that was like my life until I was like 17. I guess you could say she like roofied us. Me mainly most because I'm autistic, and I guess I'm harder to deal with than normal kids. And so like, it was mainly just like you take a bite of your dinner and you pass out. You take a bite of your dessert and you're just out. And the only times where I was really like awake would be for like school or like school events, or if I had a doctor's appointment coming up. Have you heard about Munchausen by proxy?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that. I would go to the doctors and I'd get diagnosed with all these crazy things, and then I would get medicine for all of them, and she would just use the medicine to drug us. And so like I'd have to take like 8 to 12 pills a day, twice a day. And then it only stopped because someone ended up stealing all the pills. And then my grandma was like freaking out, like, who's taking her medicine? She needs that or she'll die, and da da da. And then I guess the doctors just stopped giving them to her after so long.
Where was your mom during this?
I think at the beginning, my mom was actually arrested because
Okay.
my mom had got theft of means of transportation of a stolen vehicle, and I think like 12 child endangerment charges.
Okay.
Because I guess like my brother's friends, well, my mom's story is that my brother's friends said that they had a car and they wanted my mom to drive them to the store, and I guess the car was stolen, and she had like everybody in the car, like 7 kids and all that, and she ended up getting arrested and got child endangerment charges for every kid that was in the car.
Okay, so you started to realize what was happening to you around 17?
Yeah, I ended up going to school and I ran away from school and I attempted to throw myself into traffic. And so I ended up getting the cops called on me and I ended up going into a mental hospital. And at the mental hospital, they gave me like this pill. And I guess it was just to like get me to say like what was happening, I guess, because I was such a blabbermouth. And I was telling them everything.
Everything with your grandma?
Yeah. And like I was telling them like stuff that I never really told anybody about. And I guess that night they went and they picked up my little cousin who was a foster kid at the house and they took him out the house and put him in foster care that night. And I didn't realize that what I was doing would like set off a chain of events that would like last a fat minute. Because after that, when I was supposed to get released from the hospital, they released me straight into DCS custody. And I ended up in group homes at 17 after that, when I had already gotten adopted at 13. They just put me right back in the system.
So how did that make you feel?
Like a snitch. Because I didn't intend to tell anybody. It just happened. And I felt bad because my grandma had thought that it was my little cousin's big sister, who was also a foster kid at the house previously, who had told everybody what happened. And so, up until my grandma passed away, my girl cousin was getting blamed for everything that had happened. And it was all me the whole time. And I felt horrible about it.
Did you guys ever go back to grandma's house?
I didn't. I really only went back for like visitation and stuff. And the group homes were getting bad for me, and so I ended up making sure I could get myself arrested so I'd get out of the group home. I didn't realize I'd get myself arrested for 2 years. And so I got locked up until I was 19. And while I was in there, my grandma passed away. And I guess she must have felt bad about everything that she had done to me because she left me her house. But because I was locked up, I couldn't claim it. And so my mom ended up selling it to pay off debt.
So they put you in jail. There was no other option.
Well, I had asked the group home lady what I could do to get arrested or to get taken out of the house because I had put in a request over 10 times for DCS to change me group homes because the girls kept trying to beat me up. And because I'm autistic, I'm not supposed to get placed in a regular group home. I'm supposed to get placed in a therapeutic group home that has more of a setting for someone with mental limitations. They weren't changing me. So I had found one of my younger roommates in the group home, and we came up with a lie that I assaulted her so that I get arrested and she could go back to where she was from. And so when the cops arrested me, I had wrote down a story of what had happened. But when I read them back the story once they took the paper, I made sure to change details so my story wouldn't match up so they'd think I was lying. And then they would arrest me right away. And that's exactly what happened. I got arrested, sent to juvie, and then got transferred to Adobe, which is like a prison for children. And I was there for 13 months.
What was the environment like in prison?
I loved it. I'm not trying to say like I'd go back, but if I could, I would. Because I really loved the structure. I loved waking up at 4 a.m. every morning and being like, hey, you got to eat right now. You got 10 minutes to eat. You got 5 minutes to change. I really loved it. And I guess people think that's weird, but I guess I just had a small form of institutionalization because I really got addicted to being in there. And then when I got released, I was like refusing to leave. And I started crying, and I was telling the guards, I'm like, please, just one of you guys, like, I'll fight you. Just send me away to another place, please. And they wouldn't let me fight them. They put me in cuffs and took me out. So
Feel like safer? Or...
I don't think it's that I felt safer. I think it was just a structure like my grandma's house. And so it made me feel like I was at peace, because a lot of people, when they go through the trauma and stuff, like, sure, I got drugged every day and I slept most of my life, but at the same time, like, I didn't have to deal with a lot of things. And like, it hurt knowing that someone thought I was such a hassle at the age of 6 that they had to start roofing my sodas or my waters or something. But like, I don't know, it was a comfy setting for me.
When did you find out that your grandma passed away?
I actually told her she was gonna die. Because I had found out that I had like this little knack for telling people when they're gonna die, and they would die. Like, flashback to 2011, I had a dream that I was at a lady's funeral and she was wearing some funky like orange pants. And so I told my grandma about that dream on the morning of May 8th. And she took me to go pick up meds at Walgreens, because they started getting weird about her picking up meds without me there. So she had to bring me with her. And while we were there, we get a call that her mom passed away. We had to leave the state and go to the funeral. When we get there, at the funeral, she's wearing some funky orange pants. And I was like, that's so cool. I predicted your mom dying. And I thought that was cool.
Your grandma was wearing the orange pants?
My great grandma. My grandma's mom.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So then it happened again in high school. I was telling my friends that someone at our school was going to die. And then on Friday the 13th, a guy actually died of a heart attack. In 2019, when my grandma actually died, I was in my cell, and they were like, who wants to go to church? Who wants to go to church? I was like, I do. And so I went to church, and I thought I saw my grandma walking behind the chaplain lady. And I was like, my grandma's alive. Why is she here? And so I told my friend Jordan at the time, I was like, I think my grandma's going to die really, really soon. And they were like, there's no way your grandma's going to die. And then like the next day I had visitation, and my grandma was like, hey, I have to go get this surgery. I have to go get a stent replaced in my heart because my artery is messed up. And I was like, okay. And then like a month passes after we had that conversation, and she's like, yeah, the surgery's coming up in like a week or two, da da da. I was like, okay. And then I had a seizure that day. And when I had the seizure, I had a vision of like my grandma passing away in a hospital. And so when I woke up, the guards were like, your grandma's here for visitation, but we can send her away if you'd like. And I was like, no, I really need to tell her something. And the lieutenant's like, what's like so crazy that you need to tell her? Like, you just had a seizure, you should be sleeping. And I was like, no, she's gonna die. And the lieutenant's like, you can't tell your grandma stuff like that. And I was like, but she is. And then a few visitations pass, and I'm like waiting, and I'm like, where's my grandma at? Where's my grandma at? And then they put my whole pod down, and they're like, they pull me out, and they're like, oh, da da. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, I'm the only one who got visitation today. And they're like, your grandma's not here because she passed away this morning. And I was like, I told you she was going to die. And the lieutenant was sitting right there, the one who I told that she was going to pass away. She was sitting right there. And she was the one who had to tell me. And I was like, I told you. I already prepared. I'm not crying because I knew she was going to die. And then everyone in my pod started getting all weirded out because I had predicted her death like months before.
Yeah. How'd you feel though?
Horrible. I felt like I lost the only person who like actually cared about me. But it's like, I don't think it was care that she actually had for me. I think she like resented me. And that's why she didn't want me active or anything.
Your grandmother ends up passing away. How do you find out that she gave you the house?
I got a phone call with my mom, and I guess the day after my visitation, where I had told my grandma that she was going to die, even though she sat there telling me like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to die, I'm not going to die, I'm going to see you, I'm going to see you. And she was making it seem like she didn't believe me. I guess right after the visitation, she went outside and called my mom. And she's like, Isabel, I really need to go write my will today. There's no way I'm not going to write my will today. We need to find a lawyer now. Mm-hmm. So as soon as they left, she wrote the will with my mom. And then the house got left to me, my brother, and my mom. But because of the connection that me and my grandmother had, my mom and my brother were both signing over their parts of the house to me. But my brother was in Europe at the time, and my mom was the only one who was actually able to sign the papers. I didn't sign anything. I don't know how it got sold. My brother thinks that she forged both of our signatures, but we're not sure. She said that all the money went towards paying my grandmother's debt.
What about your father? What's your relationship like with?
I think my relationship with Corey's like kind of normal. We talk to each other like maybe every few months. Mm-hmm. But he has so many kids that I don't want to overwhelm him with my presence. So I choose to be just kind of the kid that like no one really notices. But he has a group chat with all of his kids in it. So whenever like we want to send like memes or something, we put it in the family group chat.
How does it make you feel though?
It makes me feel good that he wasn't really there during my childhood, which I guess is kind of like a mean thing to say, but at the same time, if he was there and he knew like everything that was happening, I just feel like all hell would have broke loose. Because he seems like the type to get protective over the people that he cares about. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, there was all types of people that knew what was happening and they never said anything or did anything. To this day, I don't know why.
How many people were in the house?
Since I had moved in, there was 4 of them. And at one point, one of my older cousins, Brandy, had left her kids with us for a long time. And it was just 5 kids in the house that my grandma was too sick to take care of. So all day I was just feeding them, changing their diapers, taking them to school, like, and I was like 13 when that happened.
When did you find out that you were autistic?
I found out when I was like 19, because I had tried to go back to the same clinic I went to before, because I was like, I think I need therapy. And then I went, and then they emailed me a list of papers that had everything that had ever happened in my diagnosis or in my living situation documented. Even now, I could pull up the papers and it'll still say like, client is being drugged by grandmother, client is getting raped daily, client is, and I'm like, if they had all this information for all these years, how come they never did anything to stop it? If they saw me once a week, why did they never stop it? Why did they never say anything when there were bruises on me? If they were really a behavioral health clinic. I told my grandpa when I was back at the first house that I was getting abused by my cousin Ruben, and so was my other cousin Veronica. She was getting abused by him too. And our grandpa walked up to him and was like, the girls are saying that you're touching them and you're doing this. Is that true? And he's like, no, I would never do anything like that. But then how did I end up getting drowned the same day? And the last thing I saw before I went unconscious was my big brother, Juan, just like, hey, like, what are you guys doing? And jumping in the pool. That was the last thing I saw.
And are you reporting it, just expressing yourself, or were you like trying to get help?
I think I was just talking to my therapist. But I was aware at the time that they, if there's signs of domestic abuse or child abuse or neglect in a home, they're required to report it to authorities, which is why I was curious why they never did. And nothing happened until I was a teenager and already endured so much.
That abuse like affected you as an adult?
As an adult, I think it kind of just affects my daily life. Like if I go to a restaurant or something, or like I go to a date or to a party or someone's house to hang out and they try to give me food or something to drink, I most likely won't accept it because I'm like, they're trying to kill me or they're trying to drug me or something so that they could rape me and so that they could beat on me. And so it really just is hard to trust as easily as I used to, I guess. Because even now, like if my mom makes me something to eat, like I won't eat it until I've seen her take at least 3 bites of the same thing that I'm about to serve myself from. And same with my brother.
So you found love.
Yeah, I don't really know how. Because I was just sitting there and I had just broken up with my boyfriend at the time. And I was like, this man's definitely cheating on me. And he thinks I'm stupid. So I broke up with him. I broke up with him in a way that kind of made it look like it was his idea to break up. I was like, well, what do you really want for this relationship? And then I was like, sounds like you don't want to be together. And then I guess I was telling this dude who like slid in my DMs about it. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then I was telling him, I just got an apartment. I just got out of this homeless shelter and they got me an apartment. And um, he was like, oh, that's so cool. Da, da, da. You need help like setting your stuff up, organizing. I was like, sure. So then he came over and he was so sweet. He was all like, um, on the way, he's like, do you like snacks or anything? I'm stopping at the Dollar Tree. And I was like, yeah, I like snacks, but I'm allergic to chocolate. And he's all like, oh, okay, never mind. Hold on. He came over with like 5 bags of gummy worms and trolleys and all that and sodas. And I was like, oh my God, this man's trying to get me like extra fat or something.
How long have you guys been together?
In a few months.
Gotcha.
And I don't think we actually like really solidified the relationship until he got arrested. Because then he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're still here. And I was like, yeah. And then like there's just me like throwing $100-200 to call him every day. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, this stuff's expensive. You need to get out of there.
Right.
I can
Well,
use
I'm glad
this
you
for rent.
Now, if we were to write the story of your life and you're able to manifest where you go from here, what do we see?
I think, because I did write a story of my life, but I think I want to be more active and engage my future to something different. Like I went to college for business because I want to open a daycare for special needs children. Like not just something where like you just send your kids when they're too much to handle, but something where you could send your kids where they can fully engaged with and get their future started on a path that is easier for them to understand as well as the parents. Like everyone needs help, you know what I mean? So I think it's cool if it's just able to be offered so easily.